pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Call the April 16 meeting of the Massena Town Council to order. We typically start each meeting with a 15-minute public comment period. If you've been here before, you know the rules, but I'll reiterate them for those who haven't been here before. We ask that you, if you want to comment, you can address the board about pretty much anything other than the weather. And we ask that you stand and state your name and address for the record. Keep your comments to under 3 minutes. We try to limit the public comment period to 15 minutes if at all possible. We ask that you each speak only once in the 15-minute public comment period. So, that said, would anyone like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Mr. Supervisor, Jim Heidi, Mayor of the Village of Massena.
I've heard of you.
Quick question. I don't sure if I can be added to the agenda this late to speak about a couple different topics, or put this under public comment. Obviously, we have a couple agreements that we had spoken to you about and asked that we could get on the agenda for approval. And I don't see them on here.
Well, I told you they weren't going to be, right?
No,
Everybody called yesterday.
I think you had mentioned that there were two that were, in your term, no-brainer, which would be the code enforcement office and the fire inspection that you basically had already accepted and adopted, I think.
Yes, we have adopted.
Okay.
I think we've adopted it. We're going to revisit the code enforcement, the fire code to make sure, fire inspection to make sure, but I'm pretty sure we'd already did.
Okay, so can we assume that you're going to be adopting those tonight?
I think that it's safe to say that the fire inspection definitely will be.
Okay.
Code enforcement, we can certainly take that, we can certainly add it to
And the code enforcement is just basically the 60-40 split that you had already agreed upon. So can we assume that that will be approved as well?
We can add that to the agenda.
Okay. The other is, of course, the water agreement, and basically.
I think that's the one I told you would be on the agenda.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And the water agreement is basically an agreement for maintenance of the water lines.
Supply of water.
Supply of
maintenance.
water lines, okay? And there seems to be some confusion as to what we're asking and what you're thinking we're asking, I guess, basically. So I don't know if that's something we can discuss now, or do you want to hold it for maybe later on in the program?
I think it needs to be discussed, if not, I don't know if it needs to be discussed tonight, quite honestly, but, I don't know, I'm not comfortable adding it to the agenda, but if the other board members want to do that, we can take it under consideration.
I'm not comfortable talking about it. It wasn't on the agenda. Paperwork is not here.
I guess my question is, what in here is there an issue with? Basically, again, what this is a maintenance agreement, has nothing, should not have nothing to do with rates, because you're going to be billed the same way, or your residents, the same way in fashion that the residents of the Village of Massena are going to be charged. So I guess I'm confused as to why, for 3 years now, we can't come to terms with a maintenance agreement. And so I've got Tim Offill here, trustee, that's a member of the Water Sewer Committee. I've got Haas Fayad, our DPW director, and we're prepared to answer any questions so I can get this off my desk and we can provide you with the service and maintenance that you're looking for.
There's been a couple efforts in the past to settle it, and they've stalled for several different reasons over time. I think I've noted to you, my objection is while that agreement pretty much gives the village complete control over our water system, but it's not the village's water system, it's the town water system. And until the wording changes in that, and you understand that you supply us with a service and water, and it's our system and we run it, then we're gonna have trouble passing it, and I'm gonna have trouble voting for
Okay.
it. Put it that way.
I'm kind of puzzled on when you talk about the system. What's it, we supply you the water,
Yep,
okay, with the rates,
yep.
okay, that by law.
We set the rate, we set the rates. Town code sets the rates.
I don't think so. I don't think by law you can do that. I think the rates are
So you're
set by us.
Josh, you're telling me that when we charge homeowners, we don't set that rate?
We set the user rate.
Right.
you set the rate you charge us for the water, our town code sets the rate that the residents pay.
You set, that's correct, you set the rate for operation and maintenance and for capital recovery.
Yeah?
That's what you set the rate for, but the user fee, we set the rates for.
I disagree.
It's in the law, Joe. It's in our local law.
In the village local law.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking about the town, outside the village. That's, I guess that, again, comes back to the confusion that I've had. And that's why it's much too complicated to solve here, quite honestly.
Jimmy, why don't you request that we set up a meeting with two councilmen and two trustees?
Well, we tried that on several occasions, and we still can't seem to get past that one line. And I guess I'm just confused as to what you're looking for. We will provide you with the maintenance of those lines.
And we pay you for that.
And you pay us for it.
That's right.
So, I'm
Well, see,
kind of
and I guess
confused.
that kind of hits back to my point, and again, we can talk about this forever tonight, and we're not gonna accomplish anything. You provide us for a service for which we pay you.
Correct,
I consider you a vendor,
correct.
but that agreement sure don't read like a vendor. It reads like that, you come in I go in your store to buy your product, and you tell me how I'm gonna run, how I'm gonna do it, what I'm gonna do with my product when I go home. Because it's my product, it's my system, it's the town's system, it's our system. And the village has total control of our system, according to that agreement. That's the biggest problem I have with it.
A good analogy would be, I buy power from Massena Electric, but I can't go out on the 13/8 side and hook up something to their power line.
Understood.
And that's
But,
what
but,
Jimmy-
but it's not really a comparison, Tim, because Messina Electric built the system. The town of Messina built the water system, not the village.
Okay, and that's very well.
It belongs to the town of Messina, not the village.
And you're right.
And that's the big difference.
but-
MED controls their system because they built the system.
Okay.
We built our system, we're gonna control our system. And that agreement doesn't allow us to do that.
Because along the same lines, I'm thinking, we're the largest customer that Massena Electric has, but yet we don't have any say-so on the rates. Perhaps being the largest customer, maybe we should get a reduced rate than what anybody else is paying,
Who's we, Tim?
the village.
The village is in the town of Massena.
Correct.
So you do,
And
village residents do.
and you're
You
getting,
keep, I think you always confuse the fact that village residents and town residents are the same.
I think we all do sometimes. We all do sometimes.
Right, and the people that live in the village of Massena but in the town of Louisville are part of the MED
Right.
service area. And guess what? This brings up something that bothered me for years. Every person in the MED service district pays the same rate for electricity, no matter where they live. And that's not true with the water district.
That's right. Residents of
If
the
you
town of
live in
Messina outside the
Norfolk
village pay more.
and you're in MED, you pay the same. If you're in Massena, you pay the same. If you're in Louisville, you pay the same. And that's true with not only MED, but it's true with St. Lawrence Gas, too. You don't pay any different rate just because you live somewhere. And for years, this has bothered me. I've never really said much about it,
Well, we don't
but
have
as soon
the
as something
expansion
turns,
that
like,
MED or St. Lawrence
like,
Gas has got.
if you got the water plant on North Main, if water turns right, you get to pay one fee. If it turns left, you pay a different fee. That doesn't make any sense to me. But that's outside the discussion.
Right, it is, but.
Haas, I can't,
But
I can't.
MED came up for some reason.
I can't speak to this because it wasn't on the agenda, and I don't have my agreement with me, but there's, I have.
But you guys have
the-
had this agreement for 3 years now.
Yes, we have.
It's not in my packet, Jimmy.
You've had it for 3
I would've brought it
years.
if we were gonna, if I knew we were gonna discuss it.
Right.
I've got it.
I know you
And
got
and
it.
I've read
Have
it.
you read it? You've had it for 3 years, you should know
Why
by.
was it taken off the agenda, Jim? What did I tell you? Because we asked to have a meeting tomorrow about an issue in the water district outside the village. And we asked that one of the village DPW workers that works on our system be there.
Right.
He agreed to be there. We asked that we invite Haas as well. Haas said, no, I'm not gonna be there, and Steve Daly's not going either. So that's at that point, I said, well, you know, if you can't sit, because we don't have a water agreement. So, if we don't have, if Steve Daly can't come to a meeting to discuss our water system tomorrow, because we don't have a water agreement, then we're not gonna have to discuss the water agreement tonight. Although we already are, but we're not putting it on the agenda. We're not gonna negotiate this tonight. If you wanna get real about it, you wanna change it so that we control our water system, and you supply the water and the maintenance you're supposed to, and we pay you for that, then let's sit down and talk about it.
I'll tell you what, hypothetically, let's use it. Pretend we're Westinghouse, and here's the agreement, okay? There's no negotiation,
You ain't Westinghouse,
okay?
Jim.
But we're the Village of Messina.
And we're
This
one
is
of
our
your big
agreement.
consumers as well.
This is our agreement, and I think this is what we're gonna live by.
All right, we're not
Now,
gonna discuss
but
it.
can we assume, so we can get the other two off that you've already agreed to? Now it's been a year and a half. Can we get the other two
You don't
done?
wanna go there, Jim, and code
Can we get the
enforcement.
other two?
Who threw the hand grenade in the room with the code enforcement, Jim?
Can
Who
we-
threw the hand grenade in the room with the code enforcement?
We did.
You did, you damn right you
For
did.
a very
All
good
right, we're
reason,
done.
for a
Your
very
3
good
minutes-
reason.
Thank you, your
For-
3 minutes
for
are
a very
up.
good
Your
reason.
3 minutes are up,
But-
thanks very much.
well, I think I
Anybody
got
else?
3 more
Yeah,
minutes.
minute, you had some
But let me
comments.
ask you,
No, we're
let me
done,
ask
Jim,
you,
we're done.
can we get the
Remember
other
you
two
shut me
done?
down at the village board meeting? I'm
Can
gonna
we get
shut
the
you
other
down.
two done?
Have a seat, we're done.
Can we get the other two
Have
done?
a seat, we'll see, have a seat, you can wait and find out, thanks. Yes, ma'am.
Couple of them, right?
My name is Denise